labelled as manager, not head coach like his predecessors. Is that just semantics, or is there something to read into?
No, I think it's important.
Okay.
I think if you ask most managers, head coaches, what they would prefer, they would say, I prefer to be the manager, because manager gives you more authority. And I think Xabi Alonso will have more authority than a head coach at Chelsea. Interestingly, we've been told that it was Chelsea's idea to give him that title. He didn't ask for it. But certainly you are right. He will have more authority, more input into all aspects of the running of the club. And I think Chelsea, just in the conversations they've had with him, they have realised that he has the personality and the character and the aura to be a manager and not just a head coach. And I think that's music to the ears of Chelsea fans, because what Chelsea fans will be saying is, we want a manager. We don't want a head coach. We don't want a yes man. We want somebody who is going to absolutely rule the club and rule the dressing room. I don't think that's going to be the case with Xabi Alonso, because he still has to fit into the structure.
Of course.
But I would agree with you. I think he will have more of a say, more input than quite a lot of his predecessors.
Okay.
With all what's going on behind the scenes at Chelsea, in terms of giving managers opportunity and time to do what they need to do, we thought Rosenior was going to get longer period at Chelsea. But a manager who's won trophies, he's managed at big club, is experienced. I think it's a perfect fit if he has control on recruitment. And everyone talks about Chelsea's signings. They've got some good young players there. They just need the right manager to take that talent forward. And I think it could be a great appointment. I really do.
And every decision's a risk, isn't it? Whether it be Alonso, Chelsea, Carrick, there's always a risk involved. And I still think managers don't know until they get into the building. Mike has made the point there, will he be in charge of recruitment? These things we probably don't know, and they might give him the thumbs up before he gets in the job, and then you get in there, it's slightly different. People move the goalposts. But it always seems a tough ask. It looks like... So I always get the impression, again, the lunatics are run the asylum down there. Just looks a bit of a madhouse.
Well, he's going to have authority, hasn't he, because of the club.
He's going to have a what?
He's going to have authority.
Yes.
Because of the club that he's managed. But also, he's very detailed in his coaching. And I think for the young players, you can't get anyone better on the market right now for that. So I'm excited by it. I think it'll be a good fit. I want to see how he fares in the Premier League. And hopefully he's got the time.
Would it help if they don't qualify for Europe?
Of course it would. I look at Man United this season. No European football, one game a week, and you've seen the
And that's the challenges that United will, of course, face next year. More games, bit of travel and more pressure on the players to turn up week in, week out. Yeah, that's the other challenge when you're in Europe, of course. That might be a plus for Chelsea not to be in.
What do you make of this appointment then? Happy news for you this afternoon.
Yeah, some well overdue, welcome, good news at Chelsea in what's been a very, very difficult season, a difficult, really, 3 or 4 years under this ownership. And look, I have to be honest, I doubted the club's ability to be able to pull off an appointment like this to get the best possible manager out there. Perhaps shows a bit of a change in tack, perhaps shows that maybe, at least in theory, some lessons have been learned from a number of mistakes that have been made over the last 3 or 4 years. But this is certainly, for me, the most elite appointment that we've made under Blueco, and it's probably the best decision that this ownership have actually made in the 4 years they've been at the football club. So yeah, absolutely delighted with it.
Yeah, okay. You mentioned that how they've gone about this, the hierarchy at Blueco, because they've gone from Liam Rosenior, who had very limited top-level experience, to someone like Xabi Alonso, who as a player was phenomenal, as a coach has really proved himself. What's the thinking behind the change in tact by Blueco here?
I think the thinking has got to be that, one, a lot of fan unrest. There's been a number of protests against the ownership this season. I think there's also an acceptance that Chelsea cannot continue on the same road that they've been on. You know, it's one qualification for the Champions League in the last 4 years. There's vast sums of money have been spent, and you cannot continue just doing what you've been doing and expecting to get any different results. So there has to be a change in thinking. That they've spoken about a period of reflection in that statement when they sacked Liam Rosenior. Only time will tell what the results of that reflection will be. And we have to see the action in the summer, and we have to see what players come in. But I think it's an acceptance that mistakes have been made, and an acceptance now that we have to change direction because what we were doing beforehand simply wasn't working.
Now, he's been named as manager. Is that significant? Because his predecessors were named as head coach. What difference will that make?
I mean, look, in theory, it's something that, you wouldn't really be that fussed about. But I think from a Chelsea point of view, especially with what's been going on with the way that the club's been run over the last 4 years and how the likes of Pochettino and Maresca certainly, walked out on the job, were fed up with kind of how the ownership were running things. I think this indicates, in theory at least, a significant shift that Alonso is going to be more than someone who just coaches the players. He's not just going to have signings dumped on him. There is going to be a collaborative process. There's going to be him having a say in positions, him having a say in what players he wants, and that absolutely is the right thing. Of course, at the moment, it's all just talk because we've got to see it actually in action, and we've got to see actual evidence of this happening, and hopefully that happens in the summer. But in theory, right now, at least it seems to be, a positive step in the right direction.
Okay, so you think he'll have a say in signings and transfers, so that means a pretty significant summer ahead for Xabi Alonso. Do you think he'll have a big say in who he brings in, and might it help keeping big names as well in the dressing room already there, like Enzo Fernandez, for example?
Yeah, look, I think it's, as I said before, it's impossible to quantify how big a say he's going to have until we see the business that is done. But without doubt, someone of Alonso's standing in the game, someone of his intelligence, is not going to take this job without having reassurances over transfers, without having reassurances over certain aspects of the recruitment. And in terms of him coming in as well, I think you're right. I don't think Chelsea are going to be able to keep all of our best players, but I certainly think his appointment goes a long way to maybe convincing players to stay at least one more season, those who maybe were thinking about leaving. He's someone that's going to come in and command the respect of the dressing room from day one, which is absolutely vital. That was a major problem under Liam Rossini, not having the respect of the dressing room, players not respecting, him as an individual, which is something that cannot be allowed to happen. I really feel Alonso can reset the culture at the club, which quite frankly, particularly under Liam Rossini and certainly under this ownership has deteriorated into something that's unacceptable for this football club. So, look, I'm hoping he can allow Enzo Fernandez to stay, Marc Cucurella. Those are the two that you've been looking at and thinking may have, the best chances of potentially leaving the football club. So I'm confident that his appointment can do something to keep those players. But I'm also aware that at least there could be at least one major departure this summer.
Okay, so this season hasn't exactly gone to plan, has it? I mean, there's still a chance you can qualify for Champions League. That's not mathematically impossible at this point. That's still possible. But next season, what are we looking at next season in terms of what you would deem as successful?
I mean, for me personally, until I see the recruitment, it's very difficult to put expectations on the season. But just straight from the off speaking right now, Chelsea at a bare minimum have to finish in the top 5 and get Champions League football. And I think more than likely we're going to be playing once a week. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen over the last 2 games, but I suspect we won't get any form of European football at all. So for me, there also needs to be a domestic trophy delivered next season, or at a minimum, we've got to be making another final, whether that's Carabao Cup or League Cup. So that would be the expectations for me. Obviously, those might change depending on what players come in the summer. But right now, I think as a bare minimum, that's what Alonso's got to be achieving. Okay,
yeah, obviously, Champions League football's out, but they can still qualify for Europe, Chelsea. But, okay, Premier League season then. 2 games left, a massive night on Tuesday as well. Are you backing the players to really get themselves up for this one, potentially send Spurs on their way to the Championship as well?
I mean, as fans, we'd love that. But, of course, we've seen this season that the performances just haven't been there whatsoever. We've turned up in the odd game here and there. And look, it's the final home game of the season. The home record has been terrible this season. We won 6 games at Stamford Bridge in the league out of 18 so far, which is beyond unacceptable. We usually do very, very well against Tottenham, but given our current form, we've not won in the last 7 league games. We've scored, a couple of goals in that period. So we're not in the best of form. But I'd like to think, look, Alonso's in now. He's going to be watching, so people are going to want to make a good early initial impression. It's a derby against Tottenham. It's a chance to potentially send them down. Like, if this group cannot get up for this kind of fixture, then that is a major, major concern. But I'd like to think we could produce something. But then I've thought that ahead of a lot of games this season, and the complete opposite's happened.
Yeah, I think you and a lot of Chelsea fans have thought that way. Charlie Patrick, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your comments.